Your second year of medical school is often known as the hardest year. Now that's really interesting because you'd think that it'd probably be one of your final years. You're in hospital a lot more, you're probably doing a lot of the things that junior doctors do, and you've learned a lot of information. But year 2 is very difficult in a different sense of the word. But year 2 is also, if you play your cards right, one of the best years that you'll have. So I'm going to go through some of the things that I learned in my second year of medical school at Imperial, and also some things that I'd recommend you guys do to make your lives just a lot easier. And if that sounds like a good idea to you, in this short, sweet video, let's get into it. So the basic layout of year 2 at Imperial is very similar to year 1. The reason why that is because in year 2, it's essentially your first real start to medical school. Now yes, you've been at med school for a year, but to be honest, you've not learned a lot. You've basically consolidated all of your A-level knowledge, you've got to a stage where you have the basic minimum knowledge that is required for a medical student, and you're now given this space to learn clinical stuff. But you're also in this grey area where you're not quite good enough to get into wards and start interacting with patients a lot, just because you haven't learned that much yet. This is your year to really catch up to the level of knowledge required for junior doctors, whilst not really being on placement a lot. Now that means you'll be in lecture theatres a lot, you'll have a lot of tutorials, you'll have a lot of Teams meetings with the lecturers, etc. However your university does it. At Imperial, you'll have quite a lot of lectures. And that might be good, that might be bad. But coming from a year 3 student who's about to spend 9 to 5 in a hospital, it's quite nice, because you do get a lot of time off in year 2, and your schedule is quite good. Yes, you'll have some days where you have lectures from like 8 to like 5:30, but you'll also have days where you've got like one lecture in campus, and that's it. You've got the rest of the day to yourself. And it means that you can do a lot of extracurricular, you can go out and hang out with friends, you can go and see the city. Year 2 is a beautiful year because you really get this chance to find yourself at university. That sounds really weird, and I probably mean it slightly differently. What I mean is, you basically have this time where you can actually become a university student. You can feel like a member of your university. In first year, you've given so much work to do, but you're also challenged to try and be a medical student that you might not feel a proper medical student yet. But in year 2, you'll have this chance to actually properly be a medical student. And for me, year 2 was the first year that I actually felt part of Imperial. And it's really interesting because it is a very difficult year, but the schedule is quite nice. Now, placement-wise, you do get to see placements. You go on more placements compared to year 1. For example, in year 2 at Imperial, what happens is you have 2 hospital placements in your first and second terms, and you have a GP placement that is basically every Thursday that runs throughout the whole year until your 3rd term. Now, also at Imperial in your 2nd year, after exams finished, you get a nice research project to do in your 3rd term, which is really fun because you can group up with your friends and you basically go away and do a research project for 3 weeks. It is assessed in sort of like a presentation, but it's a really nice term where you get to do something very different. So like I said, year 2 is a term for you to really cap off your preclinical studies, to really make the most of your free time before you start your clinical studies. I said that it was the hardest year, and there's a reason why people say this. Knowledge-wise, there's probably the most content you'll ever learn in medical school in year 2. Just because there's so many lectures, so many modules, so many facts that you need to learn for your exams, it can come across as the hardest year. You have to learn your BRS, which is your bioregulatory systems. That's essentially physiology and anatomy. You've also got to learn things like your CSI, which are your clinical science integration assessments that are run every few weeks at Imperial. You've also got to learn LMAP. In Imperial, that is lifestyle medicine and prevention, but for those of you in other universities, you might know it as epidemiology, public health, sleep, exercise, mental health and well-being also. So all of these things are, modules that you have to learn, and when you get to future years, it's not necessarily as much content. But in year 2, you do have to learn this massive amount of content in a year's span, and it can get quite difficult. And that's why year 2 is known as one of the hardest years of medical school. It's a different style of learning. You're basically given a lot more independence in year 2, but you do still have lectures, so you have to pace yourself, because if you leave it all to the last minute, you will not be able to sit the exams, just due to the sheer amount of content. But if you set yourself sort of half an hour segments each day to just go through content that you've learned, you're going to be fine. It's going to be a really simple year to get through, because in real reality, the amount of time that you have each day means that you've got plenty of time to revise, do extracurricular, hang out with friends, as long as you organise yourself. And if you organise yourself, it's going to be a really basic year and you'll get through with no problems whatsoever. And I can't stress enough that organisation is so key in year 2, as it is in every other year. But because of the sheer content that's given to you, if you organise yourself, you will be absolutely fine. And that's the underlying key thing I want to share with you. But yes, everything is harder, everything is more, and everything is medical. That is essentially what year 2. It's year 1 on basically steroid. And that's great because it's probably what you've wanted. You're going to learn so much more clinical things. You're going to be more access to patients. You will go on more placements where you'll probably be given more responsibility. And it's really cool. It's fun. It's a good year. And it is a great time for you to also have a lot of free time and do things that you want to do. But it's a lot of content and it's a lot of things to learn and it can get overwhelming. So pace yourself, stay on top of things and be organised and you'll be absolutely fine in year 2. Hopefully you guys are going to be okay. If you need any help, you're more than welcome to drop a comment down below in the video, or you can message me on Instagram, which I'll put here. But I'm sure you're all going to be fine. Make sure to reach out to people, and if you're Imperial, say hello to any one of us. We're all happy to help you guys in year 3 or years above you, because we've all gone through it and we want you guys to do well. Wishing you the best of luck for year 2. It's going to be great. You're going to enjoy it. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. See you in a bit.